Hello and welcome back to the box office, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Thank you for all that have commented, subscribed, and liked to our channel. Please subscribe so we can get this channel up and running off the floor. This week's episode is headlined by Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez versus Yunieski Gonzalez. Little backstory on this episode. It is a WBA light heavyweight championship title final eliminator. Now that's a mouthful, but the WBA light heavyweight championship belt is currently held by Dimitri Bivol, who last weekend just defended his belt, winning by unanimous decision, and now this week, he is potentially looking at one of his next opponents step into the ring. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez versus Yunieski Gonzalez. Little backstory or a little info on Zurdo Ramirez is he is entering the squared circle this weekend at an unblemished record, 42-0, 28 of those wins coming by the way of knockout. He is 30 years old, 6'2.5", with a 75-inch reach. Keep in mind, he is a southpaw, and if I'm not mistaken, this is his second fight under the Golden Boy banner. His last 3 fights have been against Sullivan Barrera, Alfonso Lopez, and Tommy Karpency, all of which he has stopped within the scheduled distance. Couple noticeable fights for him have been Jesse Hart, in which he fought him twice, one of them unanimous decision, second of which majority decision. Arthur Abraham, who's a high-profile name, and Maxim Vaslov. If we remember correctly, he actually gave Joe Smith everything he could handle his last bout. Something I want you to know is that Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez is continuously growing. He does have a lot of fights under his belt, but he is looking to get better each and every fight that he competes at. At 30 years old, he's looking for bigger and better fights. He has actually been on record calling out Dimitri Bivol, and if he were to win, he'd be the front runner for that fight that he wants. Golden Boy has mentioned getting him to 50-0 as a goal, and potentially facing the likes of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Whether that comes to fruition, only time will tell, but he does have Yunieski Gonzalez in front of him, who is scheduled or projected to be a huge Vegas underdog. Yunieski Gonzalez, official odds are not out yet, but if you look at a fighter of his caliber with similar records that have faced Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, you're going to look at him being something along the lines of a plus 600, give or take. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, you can expect him to be a minus 1,000, minus 1,200 favorite. Could be a little bit more. Only time will tell when the odds come out. I don't know what the lines are for knockout decision, but you can expect him to be a huge Vegas underdog. As I mentioned, Yunieski Gonzalez is stepping into the ring at 21-3. 17 of those wins coming by the way of KO, and his last 3 fights have been against Tommy Karpency, Alex Theran, Guillermo Romero, all of which he stopped within the distance himself. So they both are in a little KO streak. His 4th fight, though, was actually against Alexandre Gvotskiv. That was a TKO loss. Fight also didn't go the distance. And a notable fight from earlier in his career was against Jean Pascal, which he lost by unanimous decision. Yunieski Gonzalez is 36 years old, so he's on the older side. He is 6-0, orthodox fighter with a 74-inch reach. He himself is looking at one last run at the title. As an older fighter, he's trying to stay relevant, maybe cash out on one more big fight. Whether that happens is to be determined by this weekend's bout. There's a lot of championship implications as the winner is supposed to be the front runner, as I mentioned, for the WBA title that Dimitri Bivol holds. Continuing on speaking on Yunieski Gonzalez, let's take a look at the keys of victory for him. So for Gonzalez, first and foremost, you're going to want to establish that jab. And the reason why you want to establish that jab is because you want to stay nice and balanced. Now, this is the thing I've seen from you in the past, is you do tend to lunge sometimes at the hips. You are very top heavy. So establishing your jab, keeping your distance, and it's going to help you get your offense going. Like I mentioned, you're very top heavy, and with that Cuban school of boxing, I have seen you be a little herky-jerky. As the fight progresses, it gets a little sloppier and sloppier. So just remember, stay fundamentally sound, get everything off with your jab first, and stay nice and calm in there. You have had issues with step-up fights. When those fights have came, you haven't been successful. So, nice and controlled, nice and relaxed, and establish that jab. Take everything one step at a time. Step number 2 is some advice on the defensive end. And it's don't catch everything. I've seen some of your fights, and what tends to happen is you try to do this peekaboo style where you keep your hands up nice and tight, and essentially you're trying to do a catch and shoot. What ends up happening is you catch, but you don't shoot. You're catching more punches than you should. So do not catch everything from Zurdo Ramirez. The thing about Zurdo Ramirez is he's a come forward fighter and likes to throw punches in bunches. If he's not getting anything in return, that spells big trouble for you. So don't catch everything. If you have to, catch 1 or 2 punches and then return your own. If you see Zurdo Ramirez coming forward, try to time his attack with your own. It is a southpaw versus orthodox. So if you can establish your right hand and really dominate him with that right hand, keep your front foot outside of his lead foot and start throwing that right hand down the pipe, you'll start having more success. Which is very important because you do have issues with your gas tank. Okay, we've seen it time and time. Top heavy, herky-jerky movements. It gets very sloppy to the ends of the fight. So, don't catch. Time your right hand. Establish that jab. And one more tip for you is don't lunge when fighting forward. You're going to want to come and fight forward. You've said that in the past that you want to meet him and potentially break him down or back him up. You want to be fighting forward. I've seen some of your previous fights. When you throw punches, sometimes you lunge a little too much. And I get trying to get your head off the line when you punch, but there's a difference between getting your head off the line and throwing a punch and looking straight down at the floor. So you want to avoid doing that, especially because Zurdo Ramirez does have a very dominant uppercut and left cross. So don't lunge forward. Stay fundamentally sound on the defensive end. You do these 3 things, you're going to put yourself on a better position to pull off a massive upset, and you would shock the boxing world and get your shot at Dimitri Bivol. You'd be the next in line. There you have it. Now, for Zurdo Ramirez, keys of victory for Zurdo Ramirez. He should be a huge, huge Vegas favorite. Like I said, something along minus 1,000, maybe even more. Who knows right now? But key number 1 is establish that left hand. You are a southpaw, and what I want you to do is I want you to establish that left hand, whether it's when he's coming in for the form of a cross, form of an uppercut, or form of an uppercut to the body. You've done it before in your last fight. Your last fight, you actually dropped your opponent various times with the uppercut to the body. So do the same. Don't fix what's not broken, right? So throw that cross, throw that left uppercut to the body. He has issues with the gas tank. And that's why step number 2, you're going to want to attack the body. When you're on the inside, and if he starts doing his catch and shoot, what you're going to want to do is you want to start up top and then finish to the body. What that's going to do is he's known to have gas, finishing fights, stamina issues. Help him get there. Help him get there a round or 2 earlier. Really dig to that body. Make him think what's going to happen in the second half of the fight. Let's see. Who knows? You might get him out of there with the body shot again. But you want to attack to the body, especially with a fighter that has shown signs of gassing out later in the fight. Whether it's a form of a hook on the inside, whether it's a form of an uppercut, what I will say is stay fundamentally sound defensively. Same thing I said for Gonzalez. Boxing is about hitting. Boxing is about hitting and not getting hit. So, if he's covering up, attack the body and pivot out. You are a southpaw. Your feet should be on the outside. Pivot out after your offense and then set your offense out again. And step number 3 is going to be mix up your offense to defense. So you want to be fighting moving forward. That's your style. You like to come forward. But a fighter like Yunieski Gonzalez, who's known to lunge and throw haymakers over the top, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to know when it's time to come forward as a southpaw and when it's time to anchor that foot, feint, and see if he's going to lunge in so that you can counter with the uppercut, right hand, or even a check hook. You start timing his attack, and then you can break him down, not just mentally, but physically. And at the closer the fight, gets to the 10th, 12th round, you're going to really see his body, his demeanor change. That's the thing about Gonzalez is you can actually see his demeanor, his facial expression change as the fight goes on. So Zurdo, establish that left hand early and often. Determine, show him that you have pop in both hands. Remind him that every time he stepped up on competition, he hasn't succeeded. Establish that left hand, that power. Attack the body and fight moving forward, and then mix it up and know when to counter. You do these 3 things and you'll prove Vegas right that you are too much and just at a different level than Yunieski Gonzalez. Moving on with my prediction, I also feel that, just like Vegas said, Zurdo should be able to come up top. I do see him stopping him, but these are big boys. So anything can happen. If it's a throwdown, it'll be a throwdown. It'll be a rough and tough fight for 4 rounds, 5 rounds, until someone gets caught, gasses out, or someone just decides to, okay, maybe I should reevaluate how I'm going to go about this bout and start boxing. But I really do see Zurdo having a little bit more skill, a little more stamina, a little bit more in his engine, being the 30-year-old fighter, whereas Yunieski Gonzalez as a 36-year-old fighter he's towards the end. So there you have it. We have Zurdo Ramirez, at least that's my prediction. He should win. He should get him out by knockout. And I hope that it's an exciting fight that leads to bigger and better things for either fighter who wins. Dimitri Bivol, Saul Canelo Alvarez. There's a lot on the line just on this weekend alone. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care. See you next time.